First of all, I hate that word, entrepreneur. Look.
Oh, he's busting out the blue LOCO.
And we dropped the LOCO. Dude, crap hit the fan, dude.
Welcome to Between the Rallies, a podcast exploring the stories, people, gear, and moments that live just beneath the surface of pickleball. The conversations, connections, and experiences that shape the community behind the game. Because sometimes what happens between the rallies matters more than the score.
Welcome back to Between the Rallies. It is episode 9, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, the magnificent Doug, coming from Daddy's backyard. He is the owner of the company Bread Butter. Thanks for joining me.
What's up, Kyle?
I had this really big script written for you, but I'm just gonna, tear this up.
Please. Was there a pickleball on that script? Or are we talking about pickleball?
There was pickleball in the script, but I just threw it out. So we get to talk about whatever we want. And with that, I'm actually going to pour myself a drink.
Yeah, you mentioned that we should have a drink on air, and I told you we had some distributors come into town from Australia. Shout out to Tony and Michelle and from Talix, and they swung in. I don't know if you can see this or not.
Nice.
But yeah, they brought a bottle of this Sakaro single malt sherry cask whiskey, and I'm probably only going to have
a single drink.
One of these.
A single drink.
It's pretty strong.
I'm having a Nika whiskey single malt from Japan.
Let me see that bottle. Oh yeah, look at that. I love Japanese whiskeys, dude.
No, they do a great job
of
over there. Yeah, people are gonna be like, "What are we watching? Is this about pickleball or is this just Kyle and Doug talking trash?"
I poured a very weak shot with cheers. You're going straight neat. I put a little ice and water in mine, but mine's double strength, so
it's very smoky. I've been watching Martin a little bit, Dr. Martin, the whiskey dink. He's actually who got me into whiskey auctions, which cost me a lot of money after I got into that.
That guy is about the nicest human being on the planet. So generous, so cool. And kind of is the epitome of why I actually love this business and why I love working in this business is because it seems like you get all these different people from different walks of life that do different things, and you think you've met all these. Every time I'm like, oh, I met another interesting person. I think I've met all the interesting people I'll ever meet.
And then
in
a new
pickleball.
one pops up.
And then you meet a guy then another one pops up, and you're like, dude, what
Oh, it's so funny, dude. Do you know what kind of doctor he is?
I do know what kind of doctor.
Oh, okay. I was like, he's the perfect person to be a lady doctor. 'Cause he is. He's very nice.
He is very nice. By the way, I think that would be not a fun job.
No, worst job ever. I would never. If I was a doctor, that is the type of job I would not want. Bless his heart.
Yeah, and those guys are responsible for taking care of, new generations of babies. Their job is so important, and preventing all kinds of cancers,
Absolutely.
with women. It's they're super, super important job. But yeah, shout out to Whiskey Dink. Thanks for taking care of the ladies and
hurt my bank account with whiskey auctions.
That's right. Yeah, he brought me a couple small little samples. He brought, I think, a bourbon, and then he also brought me a scotch, which I'm not a huge scotch guy, but the one that he brought me was really, really good.
So yeah, I took a couple of his recommendations when I was doing my whiskey auctioning. What he didn't tell me though is I assumed that the shipping could be kind of bulk ordered. So I had won a few auctions, and then I'm like, okay, I'll just pay one shipping price. No, the shipping is per bottle, so it ended up costing me a lot of money. So I learned my lesson. Enough of that. It was great.
Yeah.
But on another note, we were talking about him, he delivers babies and stuff. I actually have some pretty traumatizing. My son's birth was the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I thought you were about to tell me you're having another kid, dude. I was like, wait, what?
No.
What?
No, the baby factory for Kyle is closed, snipped,
That's good.
Seared up. It's not happening again. But the birth of my son, when he was being placed on his mother's chest, his umbilical cord snapped. And I have never seen so much blood in my life. And I had never seen somebody move so fast to catch both sides of the umbilical cord to clamp them.
Oh my gosh,
dude! The nurse midwife was like a ninja. It was impressive, but it was a little scary.
Was there too much pressure on it?
It was short. He had a short, which happens very, very rarely. But yeah, he had a very short cord.
But it broke on on the umbilical cord. It wasn't like
Yes.
well, I was just going to ask, had the placenta already detached from the inner uterine wall? That's what I was.
I can't, now we're getting into it. I can't remember that much. I just remember he went to be placed in the chest. It busted, blood everywhere. It was very traumatic.
My
so I've got a
God,
special
dude.
place in my heart for people like Martin that delivers babies, because I'm sure he's seen some crazy stuff.
Shout out to Martin. Yeah, I had something early on with one of our pregnancies where my wife had a placenta previa, which is where the placenta like kind of detaches from the uterine wall, and it causes a lot of problems. And we ended up, that's Devin, who runs all of our logistics with Bread and Butter, was that baby, and they told us that there was no way. They actually sent her home. By the way, not to talk trash, Navy Hospital, segue into Navy Hospital, sent us home and told us that Devin was going to be an inevitable abortion, and that he would not be born. And 24 hours later, we went into the hospital, and the doctor, Navy officer, told us to go upstairs. They wanted to do a DNC on her. And I was like, can we do an ultrasound first to see if there's a heartbeat? He's like, he put his hand on my shoulder. He's like, son, this is an unfortunate situation, but I'm telling you, it's over. Like, we got to do a DNC. It's inevitable abortion. There's no way this baby's going to live. And I argued with him to the point that he told me that I needed to watch my tone with him, because I was like a Lance Corporal in the Marine Corps.
Shut your enlisted mouth.
Yeah, exactly. And I said, well, fine, let me talk to somebody else. And they ended up agreeing to do an ultrasound and the little heartbeat listener thing.
Yep.
And yeah, he had a heartbeat, and they put her on bed rest for the rest of pregnancy, and boom, Devin's born alive, 24 years old.
I wouldn't be getting paddles shipped to my warehouse at the Flying Pickle if it wasn't for that moment. So let's get into a little bit about your backstory. We all know you have the brand Bread and Butter, but I don't think everybody knows that you are actually a Marine vet. How did you end up joining the military?
Well, probably dysfunction with my parents.
Oh man, that's too good.
Yeah, it's probably the best. Like, my parents were good people, and I, my mom has passed now, and I ended up like reconciling with her before, she passed, which is really awesome. And I still have a great relationship with my dad. I talked to him a couple times today. Talked to him, usually a couple times a week. But yeah, we saw the world. My parents and I always saw the world the same way in some ways, but very differently in other ways. Mm-hmm. And I think that I've always been like a free thinker and type A personality. And I think that at the end of the day, my mom was a very type A personality, and my dad really wasn't. So my mom and I just butted heads, man. Like, it was bad. And so, I got to the end of high school with really bad grades.
Same.
Really bad grades, and had a lot of fun. I mean, I had a fun time in high school. But yeah, I got to the end of high school, looked at my GPA, had zero interest in college, and was that, it's the typical story. You're walking through your senior year of high school, and like, this dude standing there in his, what is the absolute best freaking uniform in the entire Marine Corps.
Whoa.
He was dude, we're not he was wearing his blues. And he walked up to me and he's like, hey, you interested in joining the Marine Corps? I was coming out of soccer practice. I was like, not really, man. And he was like, all right. He's like, you know what you're doing after high school? And I was like, not really, man. So anyway, long story short, him and I started talking, and wasn't really serious about it. Then all of a sudden I was like, man, like I could literally leave the day I graduate from high school and not have to worry. At the time, like, I got kicked out of my house. Yep. I was sleeping on my best friend's parents' couch. Shout out to the Johnsons who took me in at the end of high school. Shout out to Greg. And I got out of high school. I left for boot camp like a couple months later. That's why I joined.
We have similar but different stories. Again, I had lots of dysfunction in my family. Both my parents were addicts. Coming up at the end of high school, I only got a few like very, very small offers to play football, and they were not full rides. So I would have had to play and find a way to work or go into student debt. And I'm just like, you know what? I don't know what I want to do. My grades suck, so I wasn't getting any academic help by any means. So I was like, you know what? Let's join the Navy and go see the world. So it was kind of similar. in that aspect.
Let me ask you a question. Did you choose the Navy for a specific reason, or did
Yes.
you like the idea of going on a boat?
I loved the idea of going on a boat. Like,
Okay.
I looked at all the branches, and I was just like, the Navy travels to like all these different countries on a boat, and they get to like go out and do stuff. I'm in. I'm sold. I didn't want to be, stuck in a tank doing, practice drills. I'd known people that had been in the Army that, they're on a base in like Oklahoma and they're just doing drills. And I knew that even if we weren't at war, the Navy's still, traveling and deploying around the world. So I knew that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to deploy. I wanted to work on electronics, and, that's kind of just made sense.
Were you like, because what was your MOS? You were an electronics guy, right?
Yeah, so my MOS, or rate, what we call it in the Navy, was ET, electronics technician, and then I specialized in radar systems, specifically the identification friend or foe system. So I actually, the
Gotcha.
radar, it sits on top, and it's an electronic steerable radar that basically shoots RF out at, a plane coming by, and then they shoot back with their transmitter.
And you were probably working with you were working probably with Intel guys, like relaying information back and forth and all that. No,
not personally, but all that stuff does get relayed back. My job was just to keep the radars running. I didn't have to actually operate it. That was more so the guys working in combat. But I had to keep it running, and if it broke at 2 a.m., people were at my rack shaking me to get awake and go fix it. So.
Well, let me ask you another question. No, you have kids. You have a boy and a girl, right?
I do.
That's kind of rare for what you did. Like, you should have all girls.
Yeah, I was going to say, so what Doug's talking about is there is kind of this thing that anybody that works on radars tends to have girls. And we actually did have a FC, he was a chief, that had 6 girls. He just kept trying because he was hoping he'd once get a boy, but there is that.
Dude, that's not a rumor. That's like a real thing, dude. Like when I was in the Marine Corps, my wife, so people that don't know, I met my wife in the Marine Corps. She's a Marine as well. Way more tough than I am. But anyway, she
runs marathons.
Yeah, she does. Yep, just like you. Yeah, and at the end of the day, I knew so many Marines that worked in comm because she was comm. Mm-hmm. And every one of those dudes had all girls, dude. All of them.
That's so funny. Yeah, and I had the boy first, too. And it's funny because I did think, going into, becoming a parent, I was like, well, I'm probably going to have girls because, I was an ET. But
yeah,
had a boy and a girl and then called it quits. So I got lucky there.
Well, let me ask you a question. What would you say is the worst thing about the military for you? And then what's the best thing for the military for you?
So you're going to get the same question after I answer this. But so I loved my job. I was an electronic technician, as well as I got on a specialized team called Visit Board Search and Seizure. So I was doing counter-piracy operations off the Horn of Africa and like boardings, and like I loved my actual job.
That's like man stuff.
Exactly. Like that stuff, like I'm an adrenaline junkie. So that stuff pumped me up. What I did not like is doing all the stuff that comes with the military. So like basically you become a glorified janitor half the time. And I'm not joking. And it's funny because my recruiter even said, he's like, you're going to get really good with a mop. So like being out on the ship, on the flight deck, cleaning it in the rain, just sweeping water, that was not fun to me. I hated that. But if I could have stayed in the military and just done my job and just done boardings and, that exciting stuff, I would have never got out.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, I guess I was about to say, I think it would be the reverse. Like, I hated my job. I was an admin guy. I didn't join the Marine Corps. Like, my son's in the Marine Corps as well. I should mention that. And, like, he joined the Marine Corps because, like, he wanted to shoot. Like, he's a shooter. Like, he wanted to shoot. And he ended up scoring really high on his ASVAB and became, like, an Intel guy. And I joined not because I wanted to shoot. I grew up shooting. I joined and went in open contract because I was just trying to get in, and got an admin job and found myself in an office taking care of paperwork. And so it's weird because, like, hated my job, but also that 4 years was very difficult for me to sit and grind on paperwork and administration, handling payroll and orders and, BAH and BAQ and Comrats and all of the payroll issues and stuff that go on, dealing with dispersing on a regular basis and all that. But that period of time, I hated it so much, but it taught me how to handle administrative stuff. And I think that's like, and I still hate administrative stuff, dude. Like, I hate it. But I did it for 4 years and proved myself that I could without getting kicked out of the Marine Corps. And that kind of like set me up to realize that, like, how the inner workings of an office structure works, and organization and hierarchy and road mapping and stuff like that. So, like, yeah, I think that's like, I hated the Marine Corps because of my job. I love the Marine Corps because it taught me that I could do something that I hated for at least a short time,
Yeah.
which is kind of what I always do when I start these businesses is deal with the crap I hate in the beginning and then turn it all over. But what I loved about it, man, I had a lot of fun in Okinawa, Japan, man. I lived there for a year and it was really fun to like be on my own, feel like I was self-sufficient, like taking care of my own stuff. And then, I mean, my wife doesn't watch pickleball podcasts at all, but I will say this without like trying to get lucky later. Like I met my wife, dude. Like she was there in the Marine Corps and I met her, and so I can't ever rip the Marine Corps. And also, dude, it's pretty rad to tell it, like people, you know, you talk to people and you're like, yeah, I was a Marine. Yeah. Nobody gets that excited when you tell them you're a sailor though.
I don't know. I was a little different. I was on the front page of every newspaper in America, baby. So.
I'm just kidding, dude.
You know what Marine stands for, though, right? My ass
it.
rides in Navy equipment.
I know. Dude. Exactly. That's the way it works, dude. You were our Uber. So
I was a Marine Uber. You are not wrong.
That is what you guys were.
Okay, so, you know, the military gave you some skills, and you feel like you said that it kind of applied to, because you became, you know, an entrepreneur. Was your, you know, mom and dad, were they entrepreneurs at all, or did that just come to you after the military? You're like, I want to be my own boss, after being legitimately just a number for 4 years.
I definitely wanted to be my own boss, always. I mean, I was my own boss in school. I was cutting out the center of books with razor blades and hiding candy in it and selling it in middle school because
I thought you were going to say you were hiding something totally different, but
okay. Nah, I never sold drugs.
Okay,
sold drugs. I always had that entrepreneurial thing going, trying to make, you know, money. I had a lawn business when I was in high school. I mean, I got it to the point where I had other kids like mowing for me.
Very nice, yeah.
Yeah, and it was pretty awesome. And then their parents started complaining that I was underpaying them, and you know,
they unionized against you.
Yeah, unionized against me, and then there was like kids in the neighborhood demanding higher pay with picket signs and stuff. It was, you know, anyway. But no, I always had that. As far as my parents being entrepreneurs, I'd like to say like my dad kind of was an entrepreneur, not really in the sense that, I mean, he had his own business ultimately. First of all, I hate that word entrepreneur. Entrepreneur to me is somebody that takes high risks, rolls the dice, spins up companies, builds them, and sells them, and does it again and again and again and again.
Okay.
And then you start to go from like entrepreneur to like serial entrepreneur.
So you look at it kind of like somebody that does like the startup and dump it over and over again type.
Yeah, just somebody that's like interested in, and maybe they don't even dump it. Maybe they start a business, they sell some of it, they hold it, whatever. Like they like to build businesses, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what kind of business it is, they just like building businesses. Like that's an entrepreneur. Somebody that like, you know, I had a guy, I won't mention his name, that I know that has a car washing business in my town, and he like calls himself an entrepreneur, and I'm like, you're a small business owner. Like you build this business, you work in this business. You like show up to like people's houses and clean their cars, but you're the one actually doing the work. Like that's not really an entrepreneur. And I'm not trying to like diss on anybody that does that. I think it's great when, this is what's great about America. You could do your own thing. You could be your own boss. You can go do whatever. But like, I don't consider that an entrepreneur. And quite frankly, like, I guess I kind of consider myself an entrepreneur, but that word, I think it's because of social media, TikTok and Instagram.
I was gonna say
it's like
it's the entrepreneur, like what people portray it as.
Well, it's like
in
that
social media, yeah.
It's just like that Guggen that runs around Miami to people that are driving Ferraris. He's like, "Sir, can you do me a favor? Can you tell me how you made your first $1 billion?" And he like holds the microphone out to him or whatever. I just that whole thing is like super tacky to me. But I don't really love that word. And anyway. So, but no, my dad, I went on a huge tangent there, sorry. My dad was a really talented designer, a landscape architect, designer of like all hardscape and softscape for pools. I'm not talking like dude, he would never design like my pool or your pool, dude. Like my dad was designing stuff for like in the 80s for like Colombian drug lords, and I'm being serious. Like that's not a joke.
Okay.
Like super high end
waterfalls
mansions,
with like the cave that goes under
dude,
it. And
I'm talking like, dude, just for like design plans, like back in the 80s, a starting design plan for a residential house was like 30 G's in the 80s for plans, for
just,
drawings.
Yeah, just for the plans. That's not even
And they weren't even excited by that. They were doing bigger stuff. Funny enough, like I probably shouldn't tell that story. been like, what is that whole like 7 years you can't get in trouble?
Yeah, there's a
stalked.
statute of limitations.
My dad
They're
didn't.
good,
My
they're
dad didn't do anything illegal, but they dealt with a lot of like Miami, Fort Lauderdale like cartel guys, kind of, and like.
Well, that makes sense in the 80s.
Yeah, and they didn't do anything wrong. They were just designing for him. They'd show up like, and then not that Ron Bacardi with Bacardi, like he was not a cartel guy. He was straight
Yeah.
businessman. But like
Yep.
my dad did at his house in Puerto Rico, Gloria Estefan's house. He designed all kinds of high end stuff. So yeah, he did that, and he got partnered up with another designer that was more. He was a designer, but he was more of a sales guy. And together they built like a big landscape architectural firm. And so, yeah, my dad was like an entrepreneur in the sense that like he was my dad was a small business owner.
Got
he
it.
was not an entrepreneur.
Got it.
But he took a risk. He went and left
Yeah.
a super cushy job. And
No, that's awesome. Do you think seeing your dad grow that business kind of inspired you to start making your own small business?
I don't think it was, I don't necessarily, I think it was like my dad. Cause like, again, my dad was just like designing with his partner, and it wasn't like, that really wasn't it. I think it was where I grew up. I grew up in Wellington, Florida. I feel really lucky at that period of time in my life in high school. Like there was a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of small business owners, and we would go to barbecues and dinner parties and 4th of July events, and like everybody owned their own business. And there was gynecologists, there was neurosurgeons, there was attorneys, there was big landscape company owners, there was like, book publishing people, magazine, like, there's all kinds of stuff. And I think that being around that as a little kid at first, when you're like a little kid and you're listening to like your parents at first, you're like, I don't even hear what they're saying.
Yep.
But then like, as you get older, like all of a sudden you realize you need to make money to live. And then you start listening to somebody and you're like, oh, like Mr. Smith just bought a Porsche. Like, how did he do that? And they're like, he like just closed a deal. And I'm like, what deal? And it's like, oh, he sold like, 2,700 apartments. And you're like, well, how does somebody do that? And you start getting curious,
Exactly. Yeah, that makes sense. So you were surrounded by some successful people, which I'm sure at some point inspired you to, go out after the Marines. Was your first business the bandana company?
No, I actually worked for my dad designed. Like, that's why I always throw around the daddy's backyard thing. Dude, this is me like doing my own and designing my own space. And like, because I worked in that business a long time, and I'm fortunate enough now to be able to like have the cash to like trick out my own house. And like, so I've been doing that all myself. I run AutoCAD. So like I'll design my own plans for my own place. But yeah, after I got out of the Marine Corps, I worked for him, designed for him. And then I worked in the landscape contracting world. And funny enough, like to tie this in, I was talking, I don't talk to him all the time, but I was talking to David from 11/6/24. I had sent him a picture of, I don't know why. I just sent him a picture. It was like, I'm in the middle of chaos, and I showed him like in my front yard with a loader with big palm trees. And then he fired back a picture of a skid steer loader. And David used to run. David paid his way through college, had his own landscape company.
Yeah, he said he was my last guest. He actually said he's had quite a few businesses. He had like a wedding texting app business as well, and
he's a smart dude, man.
Yeah,
I like him. He's a good dude. But yeah, so I did that and did the landscape contracting thing, working for other people, and the whole time like I was teaching myself graphics and web design, and that's really where all this happened. I was teaching myself. I saw the internet blowing up in a big way when I was in the Marine Corps. And then I basically was like, man, like the internet is where people are going to make money. But anyway, yeah, so I started teaching myself graphics and web design, got out of the landscape contracting, started building websites for companies in like a 3-county area where I live, got really good at it, had a ton of business. It was successful. And then all of a sudden I started designing bigger websites, and I started designing e-commerce sites for people. And then one day I had a good client that let me design a bunch of stuff, and I looked on the back end of their sales, and I was like, whoa. Like,
you're like, why am I doing this?
Why am I building sites for 10 to 15 grand for people, and I do all this work, and then they turn around and they're kicking out 6-7 figures a month. And I was like, bro, I want to do this. And I kind of had that mentality that I was going to try to figure out a product. And then I had one of my clients come to me he was a SaaS guy, and he wanted to get into the physical product space, and he threw a bandana on the table one day. He's like, do you know what this is? And I was like, yeah, it's a buff. He was like, yeah. He's like, I was over in China and I found a manufacturer for these, and I did a bunch of research, and nobody has even given buff like a run for their money. Which, do you know what a buff is, by the way?
Isn't that the one that just pulls over your face?
Yeah, the tubular bandanas, like
Yeah,
you could like
yeah.
wear it as a face mask and all that.
Yep.
I was like, let me do some research, and I looked at it, and I kid you not, dude, I fired every one of my clients that I had web design wise. Once I made the decision, it took me about 5 to 7 days to make the decision. I verified it with my wife. She agreed to keep working, and I owe it to my wife. She really like carried us through that point when I was like building, and yeah, we started that and grew it, and it was a really good business. And then COVID came, and when COVID came, it went from a really good business to an excellent business.
Okay.
A magnificent business because of everybody needing face masks.
Yes.
Even
if it didn't actually block anything, yes. Yeah, I was going to say, people were using whatever they could find as face masks during COVID.
And to be fair, I probably could have made a lot more money if I would have been sharky with our marketing with that. But I brought an attorney on board, and every one of our ads that we were running and everything, we were like, this does not prevent COVID. Like, we were very specific on that whole thing.
Yeah, you probably had to be at that point.
Yeah, we did everything by the book, and but at that point, it really went from like, hey, people were buying that stuff because originally they bought it because they wanted to prevent getting the sickness, but then it turned into like, I'm buying this because if I want to leave my house, I'm required to wear something, and it was a lot easier to pull up a quick piece of fabric than to put, an N95 mask on.
Yeah, wrap it around your ear. Yeah, and those things hurt your ears. And yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, they're annoying, yeah. And we had over 250 patterns to choose from so you could match your outfits.
No, that was a big deal. I mean, you say that. I actually had bought, during COVID, I bought the kind of designed face masks for my children just so they could go around. Because they were making kids wear face masks, so I had to find something with like Mickey Mouse on it because otherwise they didn't want to wear it.
Yeah, for sure. That was like a crazy time, dude.
It was a wild time for everything. I actually 3D printed like a N95, like a filter holder with my 3D printer that would actually hold like HEPA filters instead of going out to buy a mask. And yeah, it was a new time.
I might have to send you a picture that you could flash on the screen. You're just like, damn it, Doug just made me do an edit. But I have a picture of Aurora on our back patio getting nasal swabbed by a lady wearing a freaking spacesuit, dude.
She had the full hazmat suit on, yeah.
Brute. It was the very beginning of COVID. We were trying to make sure and Aurora worked at Hurag, the company we owned. We were spraying down the inside of our building every single week, every single morning. It was costing us $3,000 a week to spray down. But we were like trying to stay in business and keep open with our employees. And we were even telling employees like, hey, you can do whatever you want. This is America. But we're asking you for the sake of your job and our business that you don't go out on weekends. You don't associate with anybody outside your house. Stay well, stay sick. Let's like keep this a bubble. And then I don't think I've ever really talked about this, but like we like doubled everyone's pay. Like every single person that came in, if they made $15 an hour, they went to 30. If they made $60,000 a year, they went to 120. We doubled everybody's pay and said, stay safe, stay away from everybody, but we are printing cash right now and we want to keep doing this. And so so everybody didn't get sick. We're spraying everything down, and it was like 2 months in, and Aurora like texts. I was laying in bed and she texted. She's like, "Don't come in my room. I have a fever." She showed us like a thermometer. It was like 102.5 or whatever.
Oh, no.
And like I called this company that was doing like COVID testing. This is the beginning of it. This would have been like April maybe. Yeah, she showed up and she's like, needs to be outside in a non-windy area, blah, blah, blah. So I put her on my pool deck. We left her outside. We're all like looking through the glass. Like, it's just crazy because you think about it now and you're like, she's got COVID.
She was like some mutant.
They swabbed her, and then like it wasn't instant tests. Like, remember those like Bionax Now tests that you could find out like within 5 minutes?
When they first started testing, they didn't have the instant test, and they had to do like the deep swab where they basically tickle your brain and gag you.
Bro, dude, it was nuts. So I don't know how the hell we went down that.
I knew we were going to go off on some tangent. It's all right. I need another drink now after that tangent, though.
Well, I poured a glass of wine. I'm not drinking any.
That without me?
I'm sorry, dude.
Yeah,
I'm rude. We'll keep going. So talk to me about your pickleball game. Where are you at? Are you like playing a lot right now? I know you were training for marathons and stuff. How many days a week are you?
So I've settled down on the running. I'm playing pickleball. So I'm playing in the actually a golden ticket event. The end of March, I'm playing mixed doubles 4-5.
Okay.
With a very, very strong female partner. She was a D1 athlete, and she hits overheads harder than most men.
Nice.
So we're getting ready for that. And I'm trying to play I've been trying to do a little more pickleball content, so I've been playing 2 times a week. I don't know if you saw, I actually recently started like a new review style where I just show up to the court with my group, random set of paddles, make them grab a paddle at random, make them play a full set, and then give me their review right there. Basically power 1 to 5, control 1 through 5, and overall playability. The first group, every one of them played with a LOCO as their main paddle, so just so you know, shout out to the LOCO.
Nice. Do the reviewers that are doing this on the court, do they have codes? I'm just kidding.
No. None of these. Yeah, that's
I'm just kidding.
You know what's hilarious is I actually asked. I did a giveaway, and I'm like, "Hey, help me name this series." And somebody was like, "It was like honest reviews, not bot, or something like that." I was like, "Ooh, that's a little brutal." But we settled on banging with the bros. Even though the second episode I did was with ladies, all ladies. It was 3 high-level ladies and me. Can't exclude that demographic. I think there's a huge need for a few more female reviewers, honestly.
There's that one Dr. Christine Price.
Yep.
She's a female reviewer. Christine, if you're watching this, go to Google and type in how to color correct my video. Can you do that? Like, can you, Christine, we love you, but you gotta color correct your video. Like, dude, I literally watched one of her videos a few weeks ago, and I was like, I don't know what it's like to be on an acid trip, but I'm pretty sure that's like what it would be like. It was like bright pinks and blues, and I was like, I couldn't even see the color of the paddles.
I struggled immensely with that in the beginning. Honestly, I ended up getting like a color card and using that before I had like white balance and stuff a little more dialed and, you know, kind of figured out where I'm shooting in the same spot over and over so I don't have to mess with everything.
Dude, Chris Olson, Pickleball Studio, arguably the most well-known, best production value pickleball paddle reviewer on the planet.
By far. They're shooting with the best gear, too.
Pay attention, colorblind. I'm pretty sure the dude's colorblind. So I don't know if Isaac's the one that's hooking him up, but like, and if that's not true, let's just spread the rumor.
I like that. All right. If Chris is watching, Chris is probably not going to, well, he might watch this, but yeah, you're colorblind, I guess.
He is, yeah. But yeah, no, I think we
awesome.
do need more female reviewers, and that's cool you're doing that whole, like, bringing onto the court. I've been saying that somebody should do that reviews for a long time. And I believe, didn't Dustin Fowkes do that?
I think
at one point?
Yeah, somebody did try that, and then it was funny because I'd always thought that would be kind of fun. I just never... I think when I had thought about it, I was a little more camera shy. Like, after doing podcasts and stuff, I'm not embarrassed to, like, bring my camera out anymore. So now I'll just go do it. But it actually, I was in a B&B thread and somebody had mentioned it. I'm like, thanks for reminding me. I wanted to do that. And I legitimately went to the court like the next day and did it.
I think now even more than ever, it's important for that to be done in the sense that, like, look, everybody's moving to full foam, floating core paddles. And, like, you know, I'm not going to be the one that's going to sit here and die on the hill of like, hey, innovation is done. But I will tell you that we're a lot closer to an innovation peak than we were 2-3 years ago, for sure. Like, we've been through cores, we've been through different layups, we've been through all these different, you know, textures and different, you know, weaves and layups with face plates and all that. You know, I think that, like, innovation is closer to the peak right now than it's been in 2 or 3 years. That being said, now there's iterations happening and doing different stuff with MPP and different densities of foam and different ways to arrange them and this and that. And so it's getting way more nuanced as to how something feels. And so you could take 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 paddles at this point that are all constructed very, very similarly, but there's going to be little nuances on how they feel. And I think that that's what's cool about testing with groups of people, is that you let different people explain the nuances and why they like it. And it's not just one person giving their perspective.
100%. And, you know, I hit hundreds of paddles. Like, what I feel in a paddle, somebody else might not feel. And like you said, paddles have gotten so good. If you go 2 years ago and I got, you know, a group of paddles from different manufacturers on my doorstep, I could probably say one of those paddles is like trash, like legit trash.
Right.
You can't do that anymore. Every brand is making good paddles, and the differences become very minute. And I think that's where we see brands now are focusing on things. I talked to David about last week is like, we're to the point now where some of the brands are worried about, one, aesthetics is huge. If you watch the section when I did with the girls, they picked all their paddles for testing by the damn color. They didn't look at the brand, nothing. One girl was like, that matches my shirt. I like blue. I like teal.
Wait, hold.
So aesthetics is huge.
I got to do it. What did you just say, blue? Look.
Oh, he's busting out the blue LOCO. Can I get one of those, please?
That's the deal, dude, is like this one's coming out, new colorway. But that's the thing is like the aesthetics thing is a huge part of it.
It's
but then
huge.
and you have a huge portion of the community. I'm gonna go ahead and just say this. A huge portion of the community isn't smart enough or care enough to be like the small 1% of the nerds that sit around and want the latest this and the latest that.
Yeah.
They want something that they like, that comes in different colors, that they like to work with the brand that they buy from, and they feel like they're getting good customer service, and like they just like the aesthetics and like the overall vibe of everything. And so that's where, like, as a business, what I'm like trying to work on is make sure, and I'll tell you, it's been a challenge from like a customer service or ambassador program. We're trying to like get back under control. Like things have been absolutely crazy since the LOCO dropped because, you know, dude, we had a really good business and we were selling a lot of paddles and we were like very proud of where we were in 2023 and 2024. And then 2025 came along and we were happy with where we were going and we dropped the LOCO. And dude, crap hit the fan, dude. Like it was like to increase the volume that we did was difficult. And like that's what I'm focused on now is like we were working on some other paddles. I have some variations of the LOCO being worked on right now. I have a prototype that is like basically the LOCO with a delete on the fiberglass layer that I actually like quite a lot. Like it's like
little softer impact feel.
Little softer, more like an all court paddle. And like quite frankly, I went and played with it last weekend with this. I had to hit the new blue LOCO because everyone's like, it just looks so good. But I played with the blue LOCO for second half. The first half, while I was warming up, I was playing like for the first like game or two. And then I got into a rhythm and I started playing really good in game 3 and 4. And then I went and switched back to the LOCO, like the real deal LOCO, on games 5 and 6. And dude, I hit a butt ton of outballs, dude.
Outballs, you do. That is, the LOCO is it's very high power. I like the feel of it. I do think it's funny you say you deleted the fiberglass because I don't think that might make it the perfect paddle for me because I like a slightly softer impact feel. And but the LOCO came out at a great time when we had that boomstick drop. Then the LOCO dropped, so we were looking like for the market that high power was what everybody wanted. Yeah. And like we've talked about it. Like I think for the enthusiasts / nerds, power is what sells. I think for like the everyday consumer, they care more about aesthetics. And honestly, a lot of people I talk to care about like the impact feel. And like I was talking with David, what's becoming a thing where manufacturers are starting to think about is the sound that the ball makes off the paddle. And I think that's where MPP is kind of gaining some ground, is people like that deeper thunk sound that comes off an MPP foam. Yep. So it's interesting to see that, like you said, I feel like we're getting very close to that innovation peak as far as like performance. And now we're like, you know, what can we do to make it look cooler? What can we do to make it sound cooler? Like, we're trying to figure out these other aspects that'll be attractive to the consumer.
Yeah, I think my thing is I'm nervous about releasing like a softer LOCO, in the sense that like, you know, you always run the risk when you have a paddle that's been as popular as this one where like you introduce something else and then like back to your point about like, maybe you didn't make this point. I'll make this point. Is I think for like 3 5s to like 4 0s, they should probably be playing something a little softer.
Definitely.
Their forced error rate is going to go percentage-wise is going to go way down. But I will tell you this. I said on Saturday when I played last weekend, I said, okay, so I played way better with the tuned-down LOCO, but I had way more fun playing with the LOCO. Even though it's wild and I hit outballs, like, it's kind of fun.
No, 100%.
So,
and I mean that's the way pickleball is. Like, especially you get a group of 4 guys, we're out there hitting the ball as hard as we can, even though it's not the best pickleball, because we're just having fun. That happens a lot.
it's all cool. We're having a good time, and I I'll take an opportunity. Like I haven't been making as much social media content and doing podcasts and stuff like that lately because I've been like taking kind of time to like, quite frankly, freaking relax.
I was gonna say,
dude, it was 6 months. Like I'll tell you right now, I think 2022 Doug might have had a heart attack if it wasn't for all of the pickleball that I was playing in 2025. Like I really, I've been working out and cutting. Believe it or not, I've lost some weight, and my cardio is way better. And I really think that helped me get through the crazy, wild, quite frankly, shit show that happened, with the LOCO. And it was like it was a good thing, but it was chaos and a lot of stress. And I think that like the cardio that I had from pickleball helped me get through that. But I took a little bit of a break, and to take this as an opportunity, like to everybody that bought our stuff, to everybody that came on board, and like the new customers that we have, and all of the ambassadors, like, man, we appreciate it. It's been awesome, dude. It's been awesome. So yeah, just excited for the next one. I don't know what we're gonna call this new one if we do the more all court style paddle. But I mean, what do you think? Do you think the all court thing, like, do you think that's a weird move, or do you think it's
no? Again, I'm a fan of all courts. I think they play very solid. I always recommend, when people ask me a paddle to recommend to them, I usually recommend an all court-esque paddle. I do know that people love power and there's a big chase for power, but for your pickleball game, for most people, the all court paddle is the way to go if you're concerned about the quality of your pickleball game. But like you said, it is fun to just get out there and rip missiles at each other too. So I think there's always going to be a need for both. I don't know where the average rec player is going to fall, but I think the all court move, I mean, the Charm came out pretty, not too long ago, and that's a all court paddle, and that's one of my favorite paddles. I think it's soft.
Same with the Coral, right? The 6-0 Coral's that way too, no?
I never got a Coral. That's a sore subject there, Doug. Yeah, when I left my last podcast, I had reached out to them, and they basically told me to kick rocks when I asked for a Coral. So.
Dale Young, paging Dale Young, please send a Coral to Kyle. Maybe I'll message him next time I talk to him.
But no, I have heard very good things about the Coral, and I've seen quite a few local, and everybody has nothing but nice things to say about it. They say it's not insanely good at anything, but it's like a very like good in between paddle.
I hit it in Dallas, dude, and it's a great paddle. Like it was. I think that's the thing is like, well, here I go on a podcast. I'm talking about how great these all court paddles are from other brands. Pretty perfect.
That shows how unbiased you are. You're just
dude.
Shoot
I should be.
If James can be a reviewer, so can Doug.
Who's James?
That RPM guy. I don't know.
Never heard of him. Anyway, I think that a paddle like the Coral or the Charm is probably the next move that we make, and focusing the sales and marketing on that to guys that play pickleball like I do. And I play now. Lately I've got a lot going on, so I've only been like 2 days a week. But I was playing 4 and 5 days a week, and I went very quickly from probably like a 3-2 or a 3-3, got to a 3-5 really quick, and now my game is probably like, if I haven't had anything to drink the night before, and I'm feeling good, and I'm well hydrated, and I've got my electrolytes on me, and I've got business stuff in order, and I'm like totally at the court, and I'm focusing on that ball. I'm probably consistently like a 3-8. If I'm really playing my ass off, I think I'm playing like really close to 4-0 level pickleball.
Okay.
And that's I'm being told that in Florida, in a pretty pickleball heavy area.
Sounds like I might have a new partner for the nerdy tourney.
Dude,
no toilet bowl for me.
If we do the nerdy tourney, I promise you I am playing in this one.
You're going to play in it? Yes, I love that.
Yep. And I have 3 reviewers that I promise you I am going to try to hit full blown in the chest as hard as I can. I'm not naming them in this podcast, but there's 3 reviewers that if they're on the other side of the court, I promise you that I'm going to speed up stupid balls at their face as hard as I can. And you probably know what the reviewers listening to this probably know which one of them you are. So.
No comment. All right, we're approaching an hour. I don't want to take any more of your time.
Yeah, no, it's all good, dude.
This podcast might do great. It might not do great, but I enjoyed talking to you, and that's all that matters to me. I'm doing this for fun. I love you. Like, you're one of my mentors. Thank you for taking time out of your day to sit here and chat with me, and we will chat soon.
Yeah, I hope you have a good one too, and I appreciate the relationship too. I appreciate the relationship that I've had with almost all of the reviewers. Like, the community is great, and I think that there's like not so good parts of it, but there's really good parts of it, and I'm appreciative of everyone. And stay tuned. We are trying to figure out the nerdy tourney right now. Are you coming if we do it?
Yeah, 100%. As long as I have notice, I'm coming. And even if I have to bring my kids, I'll make my girlfriend watch them, and we'll come to the nerdy tourney. She just flipped me off. She wants to hit the beach. So we did it in May.
We're a little bit tight. Maybe it's June, but maybe we throw it at a different venue somewhere in the middle of the country too. Like, it doesn't matter.
That would be sweet. I mean, I'm sure that would help some people flying. I will say the flight to Florida was a little brutal. I got stuck on the tarmac for like 2 hours in lightning, but it was still the best event of the year.
I think when you got to Florida, actually after that, you came and sat in my hot tub, and you were just like defeated.
I was. I came straight to your house because it was so late, and I thought I was getting in kind of early. Got to the tarmac, 2 hours on the tarmac. Had to go get my Toro, and then I had to drive all the way down to Vero. It was a long day. It was definitely worth it though. The nerdy tourney was like the highlight of my year. Ton of fun hanging out with all the reviewers, and getting to know all those guys and building those relationships is also fun. And it was just really fun to come together and celebrate Bread and Butter as a brand who's been super good to us, the community, their ambassadors, just everybody. It was a ton of fun, and
we got to do it again, even if it means I got to sell my flats boat to do it. I may sell my flats, but I don't fish anymore anyway. All I do is play pickleball. So I'll sell my flats boat. We'll throw the tourney, and it'll be on.
I love it. All right. Well, again, thanks again for coming on. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Tune in next week for another episode of Between the Rallies. Until then, see you later.